my fabulous friends. I'm Annette Bond. Welcome to Inside the Brand. For the next 30 days, I am going to be sharing 30 days of Inside the Brand of Definitive Style by Annette Bond. You know, we've been through a lot over this last, it's now been 5 months of the pandemic, and wondering, does style matter? Does image matter? Why do I bother? People also ask me a lot, how did you get started, Annette? You know, how do you work with clients? You know, an image consultant can be intimidating. So what I want to do, because I know that I am personally fascinated by learning more about others. And so again, for the next 30 days, I'm going to kind of take you into my world about how I got started. So I am going to educate you a little bit. I want to inspire you with stories. And most of all, I want you to have fun. So I'm going to begin with, who is Annette? How did I get started in image consulting? What I've learned from my good friend and colleague, Debbie Handrick, is it all starts with stories. So before I get started on how I started, I do believe it did start back when I was a little girl. And I've really tapped into some of those stories. But first, I want to start with some stories of my children on how I believe that we all have those gifts, those strengths started way back when. So I have two sons, Ryan and Brandon. They're 3.5 years apart, and they couldn't be more different. And I want to just share with you where they were as babies, as toddlers, and where they are today, and to really give you that analogy, if you will, of myself. So my son Ryan, oh my gosh, from day one, he was a mover. He always had to be held. He was in our backpack. He rode a bike at 18 months old. He was always into biking, he was into skateboarding, he was a skier, he was in soccer, he was always moving. My son Brandon, on the other hand, he was one who would sit still and he would entertain himself in his room with little things, creating. He was on the computer. He was always figuring things out. He was my baby. I could sit him on the counter. He would entertain himself. And to go fast forward 30 years, is Ryan is now a PE and health teacher. To this day, he has not stopped moving. My son Brandon is a developer, and he's always figuring things out in his brain. So I, as a mother, saw those gifts and strengths in my boys way back when. So I'm going to take you, again, people ask me all the time, Annette, how did you begin in image consultant, in styling, in fashion? How did that all start? I can remember when I was 6 years old, and it was picture day. And my mother was not going to be home to do my hair. My mother was a waitress at a really nice hotel and had to be to work early. And I was frantic as a 6-year-old that my mother wasn't going to be there to do my hair. And I think about a 6-year-old that had that awareness. I remember when I was 12 years old, I was the bustiest girl in school at 12 years old. And I was very aware of that, and I didn't like it. In fact, I remember, thinking of teenage girls in their swimsuits. I didn't like how I looked in a swimsuit at 12 and 13 years old. So my mother took me to a seamstress who custom made me a swimming suit so that I would feel comfortable in my own body. And so, there was an awareness way back then about my image, who I was. Last night, knowing I was going to do this, I actually went looking for some pictures of when I was a little girl. Here's one. I think I'm probably 3 years old, 2.5 years old. I'm the one in the little taffeta dress. Look at me. I have this big smile. I'm in a taffeta dress, and I can tell I'm loving it. I found another picture of my mom had me. I'm in the middle with my hat. I'm all dressed up. And nothing has changed. It's who I've been all along. When I was 18 years old, I was all signed up to go to fashion college. And something kind of got in my way. Another thing to know about me is I love adventure. And a friend of mine said to me, let's go to Maui. Not only let's go to Maui, let's live in Maui. So I ditched my college plans at 18 years old, and I went to live in Maui for a year. And to this day, it is still one of my favorite places to visit. And so it's been along my path about, I'm going to say that what I really value is I do value beauty. I do value adventure. I do value what I came to find out as I was growing up. I valued women and relationships. I also valued being my best self. And so that is a little bit about how did I get started in this world. And as I said, I'm going to be doing 30 tips. So I'm not going to give it all away today, but that's just a little glimpse into Annette Bond. Before I leave, I also want to share another one of my strengths, if you will, that's kind of really rounds all this out. So many of us have taken these personality profiles, and you wonder, is it really who I am, and can I really relate to that? Well, several years ago, I took the Strength Finders, which many of you may be very familiar with, and my number one strength is the maximizer. And when they describe the maximizer takes people from good to excellence. The maximizer polishes the pearl until it shines. And I went, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I do with my clients. And it's so natural for me. And so as I leave you with an educational, inspirational tip, is to look back on some of those profiles that you've taken and to really honor them and to really own them and to claim them. Look back on your childhood, the stories that maybe your mother has of you, like I do of my sons, because I believe that, for example, my sons are so aligned with what they are doing today. And it's who I'm aligned with. I am aligned with who I was as a very young girl. I'm also aligned with the gifts that I have been given. So until the next Inside the Brand of Definitive Style by Annette Bond, go out and be your best self.